Good evening, everyone. Today, I am going to tell you about US hegemony and its perils. You see, China is also trying to build its hegemony, and India is also trying, and at the same time, the United States of America is the major power who is growing day by day its hegemony in the international politics and in the global arena, right? So how United States of America is growing its hegemony and what are the perils? In this video I am going to tell you regarding that, right? So since becoming the world's most powerful country after the two world wars and the Cold War, the United States has acted more boldly to interfere in the internal affairs of other countries, pursue, maintain and abuse hegemony, advance subversion and infiltration, and willfully wage wars, bringing harm to the international community. Right? So this is a fact. The United States has developed a hegemonic playbook to stage color revolutions, instigate regional disputes, and even directly launch wars under the guise of promoting democracy, freedom, and human rights. So, clinging to the Cold War mentality, the United States has ramped up bloc politics and stopped conflict and confrontation. It has overstressed the concept of national security, abused export control, and forced unilateral sanctions upon others. It has taken a selective approach to international laws and rules, utilizing or discarding them as it sees fit, and has sought to impose rules and serve its own interests in the name of upholding a rules-based international order. The report, by representing the relevant facts, seeks to expose the US abuse of hegemony in the political, military, economic, financial, technological, and cultural fields, and to draw greater international attention to the perils of the US practices to world peace and stability and the well-being of all peoples. Political hegemony, throwing its weight around, because the United States of America wants to throw its weight around the world. It wants that the world as a whole will be under her domination. Okay, so political hegemony, how the United States of America or how America is growing its political hegemony in the international arena, I am going to tell you, right? So the United States has long been attempting to mold other countries and the world order with its own values and political system in the name of promoting democracy and human rights. It's though good, it is good with the Indians being a democratic country, we also believe in democracy and human rights. The United States of America is also doing so, but the motive is different. India wants to promote democracy and human rights for the betterment of its political system and for the betterment of the people and for the growth of its economy and for the protection of human rights of the poor and disadvantaged people. But in the United States of America, the scenario is completely different, but their motive is completely different in the international arena. Its chances of US interference in other countries' internal affairs around. In the name of promoting democracy, the United States practiced a neo-Monroe doctrine in Latin America, instigated color revolutions in Eurasia, and orchestrated the Arab Spring in West Asia and North Africa, bringing chaos and disasters to many countries. In 1823, the United States announced the Monroe Doctrine while touting an America for the Americans. What it truly wanted was an American for the United States. Since then, the policies of successive US governments two worlds, Latin America and the Caribbean region, have been riddled with political interference, military intervention, and regime subversion. From its 61-year-old hostility toward and the blockade of Cuba to its overthrow of the Allende government of Chile, U.S. policy on these regions has been built on one maxim: those who submit will prosper, those who resist shall perish. What a dangerous policy. So this year, 2000, in the year 2003, marked the beginning of a succession of the color revolutions: the rose revolutions in Georgia, the orange revolution in Ukraine, and the tulip revolution in Kyrgyzstan. The US Department of State openly admitted playing a central role in these regime changes. The United States also interfered in the internal affairs of Philippines, ousting President Ferdinand Marcos Sr. in 1986 and President Joseph Estrada in 2001 through the so-called People Power revolutions. In January 2023, former US Secretary of State Mike Pompeo released his new book, Never Give an Inch, Fighting for the America I Live. In this book, he revealed that the United States had plotted to intervene in Venezuela. The plan was to force the Maduro government to reach an agreement with the opposition, and deprive Venezuela of its ability to sell oil and gold for foreign exchange, exert high pressure on its economy, and influence the 2018 presidential election. The United States exercises double standards on international rulings, placing its self-interest first. Definitely all the countries will give first priority to its national interest. So the United States has walked away from international treaties and organizations and put its domestic law above international law. In April 2017, the Trump administration announced that it would cut off all US funding to the United Nations Population Fund, with the exercise that the organization supports all participants in the management of a program of coercive abortion of involuntary sterilization. The United States quit UNESCO twice in 1984, in 2017, and in 2017. In 2017, it announced leaving the Paris Agreement on climate change. In 2018, it announced its exit from the UN Human Rights Council. Can you imagine how the United States of America is withdrawing from different international organizations, citing the organization's bias against Israel and failure to protect human rights effectively? In 2019, the United States announced its withdrawal from the Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces Treaty to seek unfettered development of advanced weapons. In 2020, it announced pulling out of the Treaty on Open Skies. So the United States has also been a stumbling block to biological arms control by opposing negotiations on a verification protocol for the Biological Weapons Convention (BWC) and impeding international verification of countries' activities relating to biological weapons. As the only country in possession of a chemical weapons stockpile, the United States has repeatedly delayed the destruction of chemical weapons and remained reluctant in fulfilling its obligations. It has become the biggest obstacle to realizing a world free of chemical weapons. This is a hard reality. So the United States is piecing together small blocks through its alliance system. It has been forcing an Indo-Pacific strategy on the Asia-Pacific region, assembling exclusive clubs like the Five Eyes, the Quad, and AUKUS, and forcing regional countries to take sides. Such practices are essentially meant to create division in the region, stop confrontation, and undermine peace. It is not bad always it is not bad, because it is not the interest of the United States of America alone is connected in some places in case of in the Pacific region, but the interest of other countries are involved in some areas where US intervention is praiseworthy and is good for protection of peace, prosperity, and security, or global security, right? So the United States arbitrarily passes judgment on democracy in other countries and it fabricates a false narrative of democracy versus authoritarianism to incite estrangement, division, rebellion, and confrontation. In December 2021, the United States hosted the first Summit for Democracy, which drew criticism and opposition from many countries for making a mockery of the spirit of democracy and dividing the world. In March 2023, the United States will host another summit or hosted another summit for democracy, which remained unwelcome, and it again got some criticism from different quarters. After political hegemony, United States of America or America created military hegemony, so wanton use of force. The history of the United States is characterized by violence and expansion. Since it gained independence in 1776, the United States has constantly sought expansion by force. It slaughtered Indians, invaded, it slaughtered Indians here sometimes in the history maybe, invaded Canada, waged a war against Mexico, instigated the American-Spanish War, and annexed Hawaii. After World War II, the wars either provoked or launched by the United States, including the Korean War, the Vietnam War, the Gulf War, the Kosovo War, the war in Afghanistan, the Iraq War, the Libyan War, the Syrian War, abusing its military hegemony to pave the way for expansionist objectives. In recent years, the US average annual military budget has exceeded more than 8 billion US dollars approximately, accounting for about more than 40% of its of the world's total, more than the 15 countries behind its combined. The United States has about 800 overseas military bases with 1,73,000 troops deployed in 159 countries. It is really a military hegemony that has been created by the United States of America, which India does not like and which India never practices, because Indian people or Indian leadership or Indian democracy does not suggest this or does not support this and does not advocate this and does not wish to do this, nor it did earlier, nor it's doing now, and I think in the history also India will never do, because India's foreign policy, India's domestic policy, and the policy of India in both domestic and international arena is different, because India believes in non-aggression, India believes in cooperation, India believes in non-violence, India believes in non-interference in other territories, right? So this is the difference between Indian democracy, that is the largest democracy in the world, and the United States of America's democracy, which is the oldest democracy in the world. Okay? According to the book America Invades, How We Have Invaded or Been Militarily Involved with Almost Every Country on Earth, the United States has fought or been militarily involved with almost all the 190 other countries recognized by the United States, with only 3 exceptions. The 3 countries were spared because the United States did not find them on the map. So what a horrible sin, right? So as former US President Jimmy Carter put it, the United States is undoubtedly the most warlike nation in the history of the world, according to a Tufts University report. Quote, introducing the military intervention project, a new data set on US military interventions 1776 to 2019, unquote, the United States undertook nearly 400 military interventions globally between those years, 34% of which were in Latin America and the Caribbean, 23% in East Asia and the Pacific, 14% in the Middle East, and North Africa and 13% in Europe. Currently, its military intervention in the Middle East and North Africa and South-Southern Africa is on the rise. Alex Lowe, a South China Morning Post columnist, pointed out that the United States has rarely distinguished between diplomacy and war since its founding. It overthrew democratically elected governments in many developing countries in the 20th century and immediately replaced them with pro-American puppet regimes. Today, in Ukraine, Iraq, Afghanistan, Libya, Syria, Pakistan, and Yemen, the United States is repeating its old tactics of waging proxy, low-intensity, and drone wars. I have heard from the former Pakistani regime or from the former Pakistani Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina that United States is intervening in the elections of the of Bangladesh. So that was a complaint, or rather that was a that was their perception that America was gradually intervening in Bangladesh's internal affairs. Okay, now the U.S. military hegemony has caused humanitarian tragedies. In 2001, the wars and military operations launched by the United States in the name of fighting terrorism have claimed over 9 lakh, it means 900,000 lives, with some 335,000 of them civilians, injured millions and displaced tens of millions. The 2010 Iraq war resulted in some 2 lakh to 250,000 civilian deaths, including over 16,000 directly killed by US military, and left more than 1 million homeless. The United States has created 37 million refugees around the world. Since 2012, the number of Syrian refugees alone has increased tenfold. During 2016 and 2019, 33,584 civilian deaths were documented in the Syrian fightings, including 3,833 killed by US-led coalition bombings, half of them women and children. The Public Broadcasting Services (PBS) reported on 9 November 2018 that airstrikes launched by US forces on Raqqa alone killed 1,600 Syrian civilians. The 2 decades-long war in Afghanistan devastated the country. A total of 47,000 Afghan civilians and 66,000 and 69,000 Afghan soldiers and police officers unrelated to the September 11 attacks were killed in the US military operations, and more than 10 million people were displaced. The war in Afghanistan destroyed the foundation of economic development there and plunged the Afghan people into destitution. After the Kabul debacle in 2021, the United States announced that it would freeze some $9.5 billion in assets belonging to Afghan Central Bank, a move considered a pure looting. In September 2022, Turkish Interior Minister Süleyman Soylu commented at a rally that the United States has waged a proxy war in Syria, turned Afghanistan into an opium field and heroin factory, thrown Pakistan into turmoil, and left Libya in incessant civilian unrest. The United States does whatever it takes to rob and enslave the people of any country with underground resources. The United States has also adopted appalling methods in war. During the Korean War, the Vietnam War, the Gulf War, the Kosovo War, the war in Afghanistan, and the Iraq War, the United States used massive quantities of chemical and biological weapons, as well as cluster bombs, fuel air bombs, and graphite bombs, and depleted uranium bombs, so causing enormous damage to the civilian facilities, countless civilian casualties, and lasting environmental pollution. And after that, I'll say after military hegemony, I'll say about economic hegemony. Okay, how the United States is looting and exploiting the other countries. Let me tell you a brief. After World War II, the United States led efforts to set up the Bretton Woods system, the International Monetary Fund, and the World Bank, which, together with the Marshall Plan, formed the international monetary system centered around the US dollar. In addition, the United States has also established international hegemony in the international economic and financial sector by manipulating the world-boring systems, rules, and arrangements of international organizations, including approval by 85% majority and its domestic trade laws and regulations. So, by taking advantage of the dollar status as the major international reserve currency, the United States is basically collecting seigniorage from around the world and using its control over international organizations. It coerces other countries into serving America's political and economic strategy. The United States exploits the world's wealth and with the help of seigniorage, it costs only about 17 cents to produce a $100 bill. But other countries had to pony up $100 of actual goods in order to obtain one. It was pointed out more than half a century ago that the United States enjoyed exorbitant privilege and deficit without tears created by its dollar and used the worthless paper note to plunder the resources and factories of other nations. The hegemony of US dollar is the main source of instability and uncertainty in the economic sector in the world. During the COVID-19 pandemic, the United States abused its global financial hegemony and injected trillions of dollars into the global market, leaving other countries, especially emerging economies, to pay the price. Okay, next, with its control over international economic and financial organizations, the United States imposes additional conditions to its assistance to other countries in order to reduce obstacles to US capital inflow and speculation. The recipient countries are required to advance financial liberalization and open up financial markets so that their economic policies would fall in line with American strategy. According to the review of international political economy, along with the 1,550 debt relief programs extended by the IMF to its 131 member countries from 1985 to 2014, as many as 55,465 additional political conditions had been attached. Next, the United States willfully suppresses its opponents with economic coercion in the 1980s to eliminate the economic threat posed by Japan and to control the use of latter in service of America's strategic goal of confronting the Soviet Union and dominating the world. The United States leveraged its hegemonic financial power against Japan and concluded the Plaza Accord. As a result, yen was pushed up and Japan was pressed to open up its financial market and reform its financial system. The Plaza Accord dealt a heavy blow to the growth momentum of the Japanese economy, leaving Japan to what was later called 3 lost decades. America's economic and financial hegemony has become a geopolitical weapon, doubling down on unilateral sanctions and long-arm jurisdiction. The United States has enacted such domestic laws as the International Emergency Economic Power Act, the Global Magnitsky Human Rights Accountability Act, and the Countering America's Adversaries Through Sanctions Act, and introduced a series of executive orders to sanction specific countries, organizations, and individuals. Okay. Next, technological hegemony. How the United States is creating a technological hegemony and monopoly in the world. The United States seeks to deter other countries' economic, scientific, technological, and other development by wielding monopoly power, suppress measures, and technology restrictions in high-tech fields. The United States monopolizes intellectual property in the name of protection, taking advantage of the weak position of the other countries, especially developing one's own intellectual property rights and the institutional vacancy in the relevant fields. The United States reaps excessive profits through monopoly. In 1994, the United States pushed forward the agreement on trade-related aspects of intellectual property rights, forcing the Americanized process and standards in intellectual property protection in an attempt to solidify its monopoly on technology. The United States politicizes, weaponizes technological issues and uses them as ideological tools, overstretching the concept of national security. The United States mobilized state power to suppress and sanction Chinese company Huawei, restricted the entry of Huawei products into the US market, cut off its supply of chips and operating systems, and forced other countries to ban Huawei from undertaking local 5G network construction. It even talked Canada into unwarrantedly detaining Huawei's CFO Meng Wanzhou for nearly 3 years. The United States has fabricated a slew of excuses to clamp down on China's high-tech enterprises with global competitiveness and has put more than 1,000 Chinese enterprises on sanction lists. So in addition, the United States has also imposed controls on biotechnology, artificial intelligence, and other high-end technologies, reinforced export restrictions, tightened investment screening, suppressed Chinese social media apps such as TikTok and WeChat. India also banned during COVID-19 many Chinese products and many Chinese apps. Okay, so lobbied the Netherlands and America lobbied Netherlands and Japan to restrict exports of chips and related equipment or technology to China. The United States solidifies its technological monopoly in the name of protecting democracy by building small blocks on technologies such as the CHIPS Alliance and the Clean Network. The United States has put democracy and human rights labels on high technology and turned technological issues into political and ideological issues so as to fabricate excuses for its technological blockade against other countries. The United States abuses its technological hegemony by carrying out cyber attacks and eavesdropping. The United States has long been notorious as an empire of hackers, blamed for its rampant acts of cyber theft around the world. It has all kinds of means to enforce pervasive cyber attacks and surveillance, including using analog-based station signals to access mobile phones and data theft, manipulating mobile apps, infiltrating cloud servers, and stealing through undersea cables. The list goes on. Okay? So the US cultural hegemony. Now let me tell you about cultural hegemony. The global expansion of American culture is an important part of its external strategy. The United States has often used cultural tools to strengthen and maintain its hegemony in the world. The United States embeds American values in its products such as movies. American values and lifestyle are a tied product to its movies and TV shows, publications, media content, and programs by the government-funded non-profit cultural organizations. It thus shapes a cultural and public opinion space in which American culture reigns and maintains cultural hegemony. In this article, here I would like to say that there are various vehicles the United States uses to keep its cultural hegemony. American movies are the most used. They now occupy more than 70% of the world's market share. The United States skillfully exploits its cultural diversity to appeal to various ethnicities. When Hollywood movies descend on the world, they scream the American values tied to them. Next, American cultural hegemony not only shows itself in direct intervention, but also in media infiltration and as a trumpet for the world. US-dominated Western media has a particularly important role in shaping global public opinion in favor of US meddling in the internal affairs of other countries. The US government strictly censors all social media companies and demands their obedience. Twitter CEO Elon Musk admitted on 27 December 2022 that all social media platforms work with the US government to censor content. He reported Fox Business Network public opinion in the United States is subject to government intervention to restrict all unfavorable remarks. Google often makes pages disappear. So in the country of democracy, the worshipper of democracy is not worshipping at all. It is proved from this study. Okay, the United States practices double standards on the freedom of expression. Freedom of the press. It brutally suppresses and silences media of other countries by various means, the United States and Europe. But mainstream Russian media, such as Russia Today and the Sputnik from their countries, platforms such as Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube openly restrict official accounts of Russia. Netflix, Apple, and Google have removed Russian channels and applications from their services and app stores. Unprecedented draconian censorship is imposed on Russia-related contents. Okay, the United States abuses its cultural hegemony to instigate peaceful evolution in socialist countries. It sets up new media and cultural outputs targeting socialist countries. Okay, in the conclusion, I would like to say that that countries need to protect each other and treat each other as equals. Big countries should behave in a manner befitting their status and take the lead in pursuing a new model of state-to-state relations featuring dialogue and partnership, not confrontation or alliance. China opposes all forms of hegemonism, but China itself does so, and power politics and rejects interference in other countries' internal affairs. The United States must conduct serious soul searching. It must critically examine what it has done. It let go of its arrogance and prejudice and quit its hegemonic, domineering and bullying practices. The United States of America is going to elect their president, and the contest is going on, and the election is going on, and once Democrats are fighting with their Republican candidate, Donald Trump, President Donald Trump, and let's see what happens. Whosoever may come in power, we will expect, the world will expect that there will be peace, there will be prosperity, there will not be suppression of democracy in other countries, there will not be intervention in other countries, and there will not be any other intervention in others' affairs, and any kind of hegemony, any kind of interference in others' nations should be stopped by the United States. With these expectations and hope, I would like to conclude this video. I hope that you will enjoy this video, and you will definitely like it and share it, and please don't forget to put your valuable comment. Okay, thank you very much.